Hey yo, it's your boy Agent Albatross here again with another installment of our show. We got the usual suspects here from the Cypher Unlimited crew. We got Dean, or Alpha Dean. We got Anthony, or Spigs18. And Dean, why are we here today?
Today, we're here to talk to that guy right there, the powerhouse, the man, the myth, the legend, Erik Frankhouse. Creator, podcaster, just a good guy all around in the RPG industry. 3-time Iron DM.
Correct.
I mean, it's just I could talk about this guy for hours, but hey, if I talk about him, he can't talk about himself. So Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit?
Did you just find my second favorite hobby? Talking about myself. My name is Erik Frankhouse from Erik Frankhouse Presents. Like they said, I do EFP podcast, a lot of how-to help for GM and players in tabletop. I run my own Patreon as well, same name, nothing like Brandon yourself. And then I drive through RPG under Erik Frankhouse Presents. You can find my adventures that I put out as well, which are audio-guided, low prep, easy to run, 3 to 4 hour events. And I do cartography and graphic design full-time, along with some other shit we might get into later. Oh, yeah. Am I allowed to swear on this show?
Yeah, we're good, yeah.
I really asked at the beginning, and I'm on twice in 1 week. Like, this is just a blur.
Oh, boy, yeah, that's a kind of a question you probably should have asked before, but we're good.
I watched it. I already I'm happy to be here, guys. It's awesome. You guys are great. I met you at Gen Con last year for the first time, so this should be fun.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
In the mortal words of John the Turbo Lift Operator, what up?
John.
First off, we welcome you to see you. It's a long time coming getting you on the show. We tried a couple of times. We just
Almost a year.
Yeah, we couldn't connect, but it's finally happened. You're here. Could you just tell our listeners, a little bit about your gaming experience, and how did you break into the industry?
Okay, well, we'll start with my background. I stole my uncle's first edition D&D book from his bookshelf while he was sleeping, and I stole the DMG and did not steal the player's handbook, and that was my first mistake. So I started as a GM. I did not start as a player, which is very odd. I was an artist since a kid, and I really wanted to run ideas I had in my head because I was mad that cartoons weren't doing it. That's how that all started for me, like no joke. And I still have that first edition book, and many years later I found out it was a signed copy from Gary Gygax. My uncle was a little mad when he finally found out
It was
20 years later that I stole it.
Wait, it took him 20 years to figure out the book was missing from his shelf.
Oh no, he knew it was missing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He just didn't know it was me.
I thought he had a group that just met once every 20 years.
I was there. I think I was getting babysat by my aunt and my uncle. And my nephews, like two of them were hunters, the other one was too young, and I was bored. And when you go looking through people's houses, you find a couple different things, and I already knew what the magazines were, so this was the next best thing I could find. And I just started reading it and was enamored with the idea of monsters and that kind of feel, and that's what brought me to it. So,
What year was this, Eric?
What's that?
What year?
Oh, Jesus. I was 10, so 28 years ago.
Nice. Okay. I'm just
time ago.
basically I was just getting in my head which first edition book you got your hands on.
The hardback with the orange demon on the front of it, that one. And I have, later on, after he found out I took it, remember, so I was 10, 20 years, it means he found out when I was 30 at a family reunion. I was like, hey man, do you remember those books that you said were missing like 20 years ago? I took them. And I still have them, and I'm not giving them back. And he's like, dude, I don't even play anymore, just keep them. He's like, you want to do this stuff? So I got like the white box, the red box, and the blue box from him as well.
Awesome.
So he only played D&D a couple times when he was younger, but he had memories of it, and I stole those memories from him like a proper GM. So, and you wanted to know kind of, what was the next question? What my GMing is? What?
No, how did you get into the industry?
Oh, Jesus. I don't have a soul anymore. No, I'm kidding. A lot of it is honestly blood, sweat, and tears and busting my ass. And I know everyone who is a freelancer says that. As Ancient Albatross starts dancing behind his computer.
Yeah.
So I'm just turning my fan off.
I decided I wanted to do something in the industry. I loved doing illustration as a kid. I loved GMing. But back then, there wasn't any money in tabletop RPGs. Like, I mean, you could have worked for TSR. Like, I live in Milwaukee now. I live 45 minutes from what used to be the Mecca, which was, TSR. And I went to every Gen Con I could go to since the time I could drive. And I was like, how do I get in? And I just started showing people work and doing things for free, the same rigmarole. And where things kind of started coming together, I was working for Microsoft doing freelance work, doing graphic design, and I hated it. Like, it was not for Xbox, it was for Microsoft. It was boring, a lot of image placement. And in between what I was doing, I was just taking the ideas and adventures I've ran for so many years and started putting them together. And I met Lou and Roan. Lou Agresta and Roan Barton own Iron GM, that brand. And they also own Iron GM Games, which they have a new thing coming out. And we just started working together. And I think my first published piece was Dragon Magazine back in the day, but that doesn't count. I think the first published one was Frog God Games with Razor Coast, like big name. We won some Ennies for it. And it was just through who I knew. And them seeing my map work and seeing me GM, like, hey, can you actually produce? Or is this just all talk? Because I talk a lot of shit. I joke around. And people aren't sure when to take me serious. And I had to learn over the years how to tap that down when it isn't needed. So I got started with Lou and Roan, and it just kind of blew up from there. I worked in the video game industry previous to that for Volition. I ran games there. I worked on the Red Faction titles. And none of them were gamers. And I introduced them to gaming, but that still wasn't getting me into the industry. So just conventions. I think that's the thing I tell anyone who asks me at a booth. Go to conventions, shake hands, kiss babies, and make sure people know your name. You're consistent, you show up, and bring alcohol.
I don't know if you remember this, but at Gen Con, you told me that same exact advice about a year ago. We were approaching the new Gen Con. You told me to put yourself out there, make sure everyone remembers your name when you leave.
Mm-hmm.
And
you don't have to be the loudest, you just got to be the greatest. And
you know what? It works.
It does work. It does work. And but you have to follow through. Like, all of the posturing aside, you have to follow through. Like, if you say you're going to do something, you need to get that shit done. Like, it has to happen. Make your deadlines. If you're going to help people design something, do it. Don't talk about it and then don't do anything. You can have great ideas, but those ideas don't mean anything unless you execute them.
Right.
And that's bit me in the ass before, and I learned from it. Like, that, you learn from your mistakes. I wish I would have learned from other people's, but I unfortunately didn't.
I mean, I think that goes for like any circumstance, not just gaming industry. If you make a promise, you have to go through with it. Like, otherwise, no one's gonna believe you. You're gonna lose all credibility, all that sort of thing. And especially in this industry, or tabletops in general, your credibility is pretty much all you have. How well people like you, and
There's some things too that, like, while this industry right now is more vibrant than it ever has been, like we were in the golden age of TV, like 2010, that stuff really hit. Netflix started up and everything else. Now we're in the golden age of tabletop, where you have Critical Role Twitch streaming, Matt Colville doing Order of the Chain, which is on tonight. A buddy of mine, Jeff Kanata, is now doing Dungeon Run, which has got a animatronic aboleth for the beginning and the in between where he answers questions. So we are in this time where tabletop gaming is just everywhere, and nerds get to do what they love because they realize that everybody is nerdy about something. Like, I can't tell you the amount of pro football players and stuff that I've met. They're all gamers.
Yeah.
You know what's hilarious? It's would you have ever thought that you would hear this in the same sentence? Hey, I'm running a Twitch stream, or I'm running a gaming stream. Okay, what's your budget?
Nope, and I'm having that conversation with the company like literally this week. We've had
yeah.
What's your budget? What's your setup? It's crazy, and there has been talks about how what Critical Role has done has harmed the industry, and I think this is people looking for problems where problems don't need to exist. they do something that is them. They are giving you an entertainment value that is an entry level for people to play. And when I tell anyone who wants to do tabletop gaming, even if they want to be in the industry, they just want to be in the hobby, play it how you play it. If you are having fun and you walk from the table with memories, then you're doing it right. There's no wrong way to game. The way I may love to game may not be the way the rest of you like to game, but that doesn't mean any of us are doing it wrong. It just means go find someone else, because it's easy to game with now. And don't be upset if someone doesn't want to play with you.
You know, Eric, that's like, probably some of the best advice. It's great that you bring that up. This past weekend, I wasn't able to hang out and game and everything because we had family in town. And
I thought you were just bailing on us.
I wish I could have. I wanted to be there.
Don't worry, we mentioned it during the stream.
But I was saying, I say that because 2 family members, older people, in their 50s, never touched tabletop gaming, none of that. What did we end up doing in the car on our rides places?
Play games.
And they were like, wow, this is like great. So, now I got 2 new people on our Discord. Do you guys,
this is a side question for that. Do you have, did all the people in the car have iPhone?
No, we use, but I do know.
Okay, so iPhone has got an app called Roll, ROLE, and it is made for travel and gaming.
Oh.
Cool. Okay.
You make characters and you make difficulties and you roll, and every time you make a success, you get experience and your character gets better. It's amazing.
I have to check that out.
I don't know if the company exists anymore.
Nice.
But anyways, let's keep this on going. Kind of answer this question a little bit, but you do a lot of RPG work, a lot of map and design freelancing.
Yep.
You already kind of told us what your advice is for people trying to do that sort of thing, but if you could go into that further, and also what are some pitfalls they could potentially avoid?
Okay, so I just did this on a panel at GDC this year for video games, and it's similar for this. 1, have a portfolio ready online, something you can show. 2, Instagram is great for using photo stuff, but if every other picture is a picture of you and your friends, make another fucking Instagram. I don't want to see that as someone who's hiring. I want to see what you can do. Sure, one of you at a convention with like one of your idol cartographers or designers, awesome. But if it's just a bunch of your friends partying with red Solo cups, don't show that. And I like to drink. I am saying that. I get hired to do live game and beer pairings. I get it, but your job doesn't fit it, don't have it on there. Make a separate account. You can literally just switch accounts now. It's super easy. So that's 2. 3, get ready for constructive criticism. If you can't take that as a designer in any fashion, writing, art, layout, whatever it is you are good at, find a different job, because that is not for you. Maybe that should be your hobby and it shouldn't be your career. If you can't take that kind of toughening up and making you better at what you do, like I tell everybody, if you are a piece of stone that hasn't been carved and you don't want to be carved, this is not the industry for you. You can't handle that crap, then it's not good for you, because they're going to chisel everything away. And learn, for the biggest thing I think, learn how to ask questions that make you better at your job. It's like interviewing. Like if you're nervous interviewing, the best way to do it is have conversations with your friends you trust about things you like, or go on the Anchor app. Anchor app, you can call into people's radio shows and ask questions, and people are like hungry to put people on air. So call in and ask questions on game shows on there. Send in your favorite podcasts and ask questions. Find ways to learn to make yourself better at what you do. So for example, when I was doing cartography, I was having a really hard time getting people to pick me up to do cartography. It was the same names over and over and over again. And the answer, unfortunately, was I needed to do some stuff for free. But you put a line. Always say, I'm doing 3 for free, build my portfolio, try for a paying job. If you don't get a paying job within X amount of time, do 1 more for free, try for a paying job. And that wash, rinse, repeat cycle will eventually let you raise your limits and raise your prices. If you think you can go out of the gate and charge what I charge for a map, you're out of your mind. You need to start small and build up every client afterwards and tell them, I'm doing this at a lower price. This is one of my first maps. And when they come back to you, hopefully your relationship, and this is important, that you have built is good. If you did not take your constructive criticism, you did not go the extra mile, they're probably not going to come back to you. be ready to do that extra mile. It's as much customer service as it is being an artist. And my last thing is, if you cannot do that, find someone to do it for you and give them a cut of what you make. I have done a lot of art directing for companies, but I've also been someone who goes out and finds work for artists that are bad at communicating with people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just give them a cut and know that you're going to have constant work. Hiding behind a Dorito bag doesn't help that.
This is bacon, okay?
Looks like dog treats. Well, that's my honest opinion on how to get in the industry. It's just conventions, hit it, go through, talk to people, make conversations, and don't waste people's time. Make the conversation short. Talk for 5, walk away, buy them a beer, bring them a shot. Trust me, everyone there wants a drink because they're tired of talking to you.
Well, with that being said, Eric, first of all, thank you for your candor and your honesty.
I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. You can get that shit anywhere.
Well, and again, that's why we hit it off when we first met. Because we're a bunch of honest old bastards. So,
right.
That being said, where do you get up those ideas? I mean, your maps and all of that good stuff. Some of the stuff is just phenomenal.
What's like what I draw, or like?
But when you create the maps, your photography is excellent. Your gaming maps, and basically what we're trying to figure out is where you get your inspirations for these.
My inspiration. I traveled a lot, so this is going to be hard for some people. Although it's easier now. You have the internet now. I use that for everything now, looking around. Tour guide sites are amazing. Like, there's so many 360 tour sites where you can see like the inside of caves and stuff like that now. This sounds ridiculous. Places selling houses, I have in my own email account to go to like Zelly and places like that, so I can see new houses of a certain style I want and do the 3D tours that they do in major cities, and then I draw rough maps of them to get an idea of what actual layouts of maps look like. But for mine, I was a bodyguard for 8 years, and I traveled a lot, so I saw a lot of the world, and I didn't have a camera with me all the time, so I drew a lot. That's where a lot of my maps come from. And I design in reverse. I draw a map and then usually design an adventure around the map. I usually don't do an adventure and then draw a map.
Nice.
It's easier to draw it once and build around it than it is to build a adventure and then try to draw a map around it. It ends up being a pain in the butt.
Makes sense.
What makes a good map? Could you tell us, like, if you were looking at someone else's work, like, what makes a standout map to you?
Yeah, a standout map. There's a few things. Genre matters. Study your genre. If you're making a map for Star Wars, make it look like Star Wars. If you are making something for, a fantasy setting, make it look like a fantasy setting. What questions I have for the clients that I'm working for, I have 10 questions I go through, and the biggest thing is what information does this map need to portray? While I could draw a map that is hyper detailed, line work for everything, all the way down to like every Kleenex that's on the ground next to a computer desk in a modern setting, unless that has something to do with the adventure, why put it on there? My favorite, I'm gonna say one of my favorite cartographers, which I know he is a controversial issue right now, but as an artist, Zach Sabbath's work in Maze of the Blue Medusa, the idea of having a full-fledged like labyrinth, color-coded, and then another map right alongside with an image of what's in the room, the creature, the encounter, is next level genius. And his publisher didn't even want him to do it. So set aside everything that man has done or whatever you think about it, that level of design is something other people should strive to do. And if you don't have that ability artistically, take it on the opposite side and look at something like Veins of the Earth by Patrick Stewart. He found a way to map the Underdark, not only horizontally, like going through tunnels, like top down, but how to handle vertically as well. And his is just with lines and different color ink.
That's
so
awesome.
Portraying information is the most important. If I don't know what you're trying to show me, you failed.
Definitely makes sense.
That's a great answer. With Eric Frankhouse Presents, you got started in podcasting, I guess, and gaming, but where do you get your ideas for your episodes?
Usually whatever annoyed me on somebody else's podcast. I'll be honest. And it's not that their ideas are something I disagree with. I never mention the podcast by name when I do it because it's not about me thinking they're bad at what they do. It's about me having a different opinion than what they say. Someone telling you how you have to run a monster every time in your game, I don't agree with that. I think that's BS. So my last episode was all about Lichdom and how it can be used in any setting. I also do ones on things that I hear from people. So when I go to conventions, I'm at a booth or I'm on panels. I have a notebook. Actually, hold on.
Yeah.
I have this with me always. This is always in my back pocket. It's probably going to make noise. I apologize. It's always in my back pocket. And when someone says something that I don't get to hear an answer to, I seek answers for that question. So just the end of my podcast says watch, listen, learn. And I mean that. The best way to be better at what you do is by doing those three things. As much as I love to talk, I've had to learn to rein that in to actually be better at what I do. Or otherwise, I'm just recanting the same BS over and over, and I might be wrong. And eat your words if you're wrong, people. It's okay to be wrong. No one's going to beat you up over it. And if they do, get them back.
Yeah, that's definitely a good mindset. Like, if you're wrong, it's okay to be wrong. Just adjust your way of thinking. Like, that's all it boils down. No one hates you for being wrong. No one's gonna hate on you for being wrong. But people will hate on you for being wrong and staying wrong.
Right? They're still saying the same crap over and over. I mean, there's someone in power that's lied like I think 100 and something thousand times during their job right now. That kind of crap, like lying and not owning up to your crap, that will burn you. It will burn you in the end. It always does.
Ooh, definitely some good advice right there. But so let's keep things moving forward. Could you tell us a little bit more about Iron GM? And as a 3-time Iron GM winner, what's the biggest difference in your mindset when GMing for like a competitive competition or GMing for like your friends or for a stream or whatever have you?
I should probably start with how that even got started. Iron GM, if you have not experienced that at Gen Con, it is a long, emotionally driven, amazing day. I explain it as storytelling meets WWE meets a rock show. If you did not see me last year, I walked in with, I call it the skin of my enemies. Every shirt that I've designed over the years. So I do all the shirts for them for charity. I do it for free. I don't get paid. They wanted a rock show. I'm like, dude, I will just keep doing them. I'm over 30 shirts. I had an amazing cosplayer cut them all apart and make me like a black, like lich robe out of it. That is every one of the fronts and backs of the shirts, with a golden mask and like a 40K scald axe. And I walked into Pantera into Walk It Like I Talk It. Like literally, yeah, with the bell time, because I won that year.
I remember you showed us the video.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
We actually shared the crap out of that video on our Discord server.
Oh, did you guys? That's awesome. And I did it as a joke because like I wanted more people to raise the bar. I wanted more people to do what we're doing because there's a few others that do. So I got started in that when 3.0 came out. We went to one of the, back in the day, the Wizards of the Coast dungeon run competitions where it was to see how far you could get through. And we did pretty well. And Steve Help, another Iron GM, was running it for us. He's like, dude, you guys were a blast. There's an Iron GM competition coming up. Nick Logue and Lou Agresta run. Nick Logue is a prominent writer and designer, did a lot for Paizo. Razor Coast is based around his ideas. Hook Mountain Massacre. Like if you want to play The Hills Have Eyes and Pathfinder, that's your jam then. And he ran this crazy idea of Iron GM. I showed up to play. Somebody quit as a GM. I played that year and took third. And I've only not placed once in all the years that I've played. And the difference between sitting down to play a game there and probably sitting down to play at home is I do, like we discussed before we were on stream, I prepare ideas and encounters or themed pieces that I want, but I don't prepare anything else when I sit down for Iron GM. I actually leave the room and don't know the 3 words even. So the way Iron GM works is they give you 3 words like Rock Sasha, River Rapids, and Redemption. And you then in turn have to make a 5-hour adventure in 1 hour. You give your players 3 words, and you cannot talk to them for an hour. And they make their characters without you being able to speak to them. You can write. There's some hooks that we've found over the years and ways to go around, but you cannot talk to them. And then you run the adventure, and then your table judges you. So you don't know these people. They may hate your style of GMing. So you have to read a table in roughly 5 minutes. And that's how I do it. I read my table. My first 5 minutes, I don't start the game. I say, hey guys, just so you know, Iron GM Necessary Evil is a heel. It's not who I actually am. If I offend you, trust me, the character. And I start the show. And I learned that because one year I had someone at that table that was just like angry up until the half. I was like, why is this person so pissed? I talked to him in between, like, is something wrong? He's like, I don't like your attitude. I thought you were a jerk when you came in. You walked up and body slammed one of the other contestants. I'm like, that's my best friend. He's a stunt man. We prepped this in our room. He's like, oh, I'm like, it's a show, buddy. It's a show.
I can't imagine someone just doing that without like it being staged or like that's just unfathomable to me at like a role playing type.
It was just amazing.
I can imagine the other way. The player sitting there petrified. He's like, this guy's gonna punch me in my face if I say it.
So I show up at the table. I'm like, hey man, what's my words? And I make my players tell me my words. I really don't know them, and it's fun. But to me, it's improv, 100% for me. Knowing rules is literally the last thing on my list, because I tell players, while you want me to know the rules, I want to give you a good story. So my answer is going to be yes 99% of the time if it makes the story good. And I know my rules. But last year I sat down and ran The Witcher, and I bought that book that day at because I knew it doesn't matter. I know what Witcher is. I played The Witcher. At the end of the day, it's the fusion system. It's a D10 with a target number and some modifiers. I said, hey man, pick the person out of the front of the book you want to play, adjust them however you want, let's rock and roll. It's all sales, man. It's how you do it. And at home, my adventures are very different. They're deeper. They're more emotional. At competitions, it's so loud you can't drive a emotion other than like rip roaring good time, joy, and like cheering. You can't run 10 candles at a convention. You can't tell them to turn the lights off, light 10 candles, and have emotional experience. It's really hard to do. I did scare a woman one year though. Came back from the half, I'd lost my voice, and I was underneath the table with popcorn because they were playing in an opera house with kids crawling through the vents. That were like these drowned creatures, these kids, and I was eating popcorn on the table, and I kept putting it in her lap while they thought I left on break. I hadn't. That was amazing.
Oh boy.
What's the criteria for judging? Like,
we don't know. So GMs aren't allowed to see the sheet. They call it a Russian score-proof card, a la the Olympics, where they have to read what they're doing, and the average of everything that is said is taken. And that becomes the judgment of the card. I know a lot of things are a scale of 1 to 5, some are 1 to 10, but for them to score the 30 to 50 GMs there takes like 45 minutes with a program and them hustling. And I've only ever felt slighted once during the judging process, and that was the year I lost. But that was because the people at the table, 2 of them came after 48 hours of gaming and were sleeping.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, I may or may not have dumped water on...
That's no excuse, Eric.
One of them.
Wake up!
We were on a boat, so I started splashing water around the table.
You feel the mist of the waves as they crash against...
Yeah, that's what I was doing. That's exactly what I was doing. But I did really well in that one still. I just didn't place, and that was the best year. Everybody was 0.01 or 0.02 apart.
Wow.
That was a really good year that year.
So, that's pretty cool. And, we're getting into all this. So, talking about that kind of stuff, we know you have guests on Eric Frankhouse Presents,
sometimes,
to partake in your discussions. So, if you could chat with any one person about any topic whatsoever, who would that be and why? And second part to that question is, what would you want to discuss?
Unfortunately, I got to do that, and I had the podcast not record when I was interviewing Rob Schwab from Shadows of the Demon Lord. That was one of the best interviews I've ever done, and it did not record. And I'm super upset. And so was he, because it went from like being about Shadows of the Demon Lord to just the satanic panic of the 80s, what we both grew up in. We both grew up in very religious households, how we kind of came through that. Like, Rob is a vegan. Like, I never knew that with what he does. And so I started seeing all these cooking posts. Like, he's showing how he's making this like crazy bean dish, and I'm outside smoking brisket the same day. So, like, we have like a love of metal as well, for heavy metal. I like hip hop a lot. He doesn't. And that was one of my favorites. So that's out of the way. I think if I wanted to interview somebody, does it have to be industry, or can it be
anybody?
Whatever. Anybody, anything.
I want to interview the guy who decided the Dragon magazine and Dungeon magazine shouldn't exist anymore.
Nice.
And I want to know what the business operation behind that was. Was it cost effective? Was it their idea of moving to 3.5 to 4? Because we all know how 4 did. Thanks for making me a fucking miniature game. And what was the object behind that? What did it do? Was he pressured into it, or she? I'm pretty sure it was a guy. I've talked to Eric Mona a little about this, because he was the publisher at Dragon at the time. And I don't even know if he totally knows why. So I'd love to take that and just have like a long 1 hour deep dive interview. My favorite interviewer right now is Chris Evans, or not Chris Evans. Is that his name? Yeah, Chris Evans from Hot Ones.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is the best interview online right now. He's better than any late show interviewer, hands down. If you have not watched the Hot Ones best interview questions, his deep dive into those guys' life is awesome. And then I like a lot of the stuff Tim Ferriss does. So my question for him would definitely be that. Why did you cancel the most beloved tabletop magazines of all time? Like, why didn't you just port them over to a interactive digital version with published adventures and bump the subscription model up like Netflix and make some money off of it and do the right thing? Like, what were you thinking?
Hey, they brought back Dragon magazine for your iPhone.
Have you looked at it?
That's why I was laughing after I said it.
And real quick, wait, so you're saying we're not the best interviewers you've ever... I was joking around.
No. I love you guys.
Oh, boy.
Interview's over.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, it's obvious that you have a vast knowledge of multiple RPG systems. You know, it's evident. You worked on so many different games with so many different mechanics and genres. But what's your favorite system to design for?
Design for and running and playing is different.
Yes, that's what is the two-parter. Your favorite system to design for and your preferred system to play in right now.
So, not because we're on Cypher system, but I would say my favorite to design for is Cypher, because it's so freeing when you design for it. It's very easy. While that is said, I don't particularly publish under the MCG licensing stuff. So when I design for that, it's like me doing it for conventions and whatnot. I would say my favorite to run and play, I have two that I really love. I absolutely love the Marvel Heroic system that came out from Margaret Weiss. The Dice Pool, the Doom Pool. It took just enough of things from board games that I liked and gave me an amazing superhero game. I love running that. I run like crazy stuff. I've ran like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with it, just great one-offs. I've ran Voltron with it. Just some fun stuff harkening back to my childhood. For my everyday, if I had to pick a game to play and a system to play all the time, I would have said Pathfinder a few years ago, but I'm so out of the crunch. I would probably say Blades in the Dark. I think that's my favorite thing to run for storytelling, without a shadow of a doubt.
I think I need to get my feet wet on that because I have not played it. But there are many games I haven't played.
So have you guys played Fiasco?
I have not.
Fiasco is awesome.
Absolutely.
You guys play Dungeon World?
I have not.
Okay, so it's a great merger of the narrative blend of Fiasco and the rules of Dungeon World and Apocalypse World polished to just this mere sheen. where what you do with you play thieves. So one of the years at Iron GM, I went, all right, guys, I could run 5e, which you play at home all the time, or do you guys want to play thieves that are in the dark murdering people? Of course they're going to pick that. Who's not going to pay? I mean, they weren't in pony outfits, so I was safe. So I ran that, and the game is just D6s, and it's about failing forward. So you're even on a failure, something still drives you towards your goal, but something bad happens in turn. And there's the devil's bargain, which I have like a little demon die that I kind of pass across tables. Devil's bargain? And that's a GM saying you can do it and you get this extra dice, but here is the consequence. And after that's done, you do experience round robin with a group. You also level up your crew. If you're like a bunch of smugglers or if you're assassins or whatever it may be, you have a crew sheet. And then there is downtime similar to Darkest Dungeon, which I know you know Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, I definitely know that guy. I love that guy.
So you are taking stress through the game, and you have vices that you have to fulfill to get rid of your stress. And if you overindulge, make a new character for next session because that dude is gone. And he will be back. He will come back the following session. You get to role play it in, so you got this nice revolving cast. We have the same crew of cutters, which are like kind of thugs that we play at every convention we go to. Me and my friend Kelly have all of them together, and we tell people to make a character. You can make them in like 10 minutes, and we run Blades in the Dark. We just have this huge dossier of a crew of I think it's the Yellow Street Cutters. I think that's what they ended up naming themselves. That system is awesome. And speaking of maps, he does a great overhead map of the city. And every district you go into, there's a side version where you can see what the architecture of that area looks like.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
And it's genius. Environment is everything for running a game.
I definitely need to take a look at that. But there's so many things I need to take a look at.
Right there. And I use the PDF more than I do the book. The book is just gorgeous. It's like this soft satin feel.
Ooh, those are always nice.
Blades in the Dark, that's an awesome game. The utilization of clocks, like the whole...
Yep. I've introduced clocks into other games because of how well they work.
Yeah.
An idea of a clock is something is going on. You put a clock on. It has X amount of parts, like a pie. And every time they do something, either successfully or unsuccessfully, depending on what you're doing, you mark a piece off that clock. So it could be when the investigator finally finds them for the last 2 people they killed and they forgot to throw them in the river because they were fleeing from the scene. Or it could be crafting. Or it could be whatever. They just work. It takes time and implements it into a game, and GMs forget about time so much.
Yeah, it's such a simple...
To 15 in 4 weeks of travel? Like, what juice are you drinking to do that?
It's such an elegant mechanic.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real good game design.
This was my first time hearing about it, and it's like it clicked immediately, and like it just makes so much sense.
Right? So I have 3 podcasts on my Twitch stream. Also, Erik Frankhouse presents, of me and 3 of my friends playing a really dark Dexter Hannibal serial killer-esque version of Blades in the Dark.
I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
It is messed up. It is rated hard R.
Hard R, not just regular R.
Like, we're not doing, intimacy on scene, but stuff is going on. It is not for the faint of heart. And we've had some stress breaks that happen in that. We want to get back to the show. Unfortunately, one of the gentlemen's in the military, and his schedule is just like wishy-washy. But
We'll definitely add the links below in our description
Yeah,
to everything Eric is doing.
So yeah, that would be my system, Blades in the Dark. I think that's number 1. Shadows is really close second for me. Shadows and Demon Lord, but Blades, there's just something.
But that's good stuff. Yeah, Blades in the Dark is a lot of fun. I'm like these guys. I'm like an RPG whore.
Me too. I mean, I'm on the corner of everything and all the time.
Yeah, even if I haven't got to play it, I probably read it. I probably have PDFs and books sitting all over the place.
Yep. And that's a good... I have some questions I was going to ask, but side one, and this is not really a question, more as I know publishers are really upset about people downloading their stuff for free, but I can tell you, if the sample stuff on DriveThruRPG was time delayed or something to where you got a chunk where you can actually understand the game, like the quick rules that come out, I know I download things to see the quality of where my money is going, especially when PDFs, like, for example, Dark Matter from Mage Hand Press 5e sci-fi setting is $30 for PDF on their site, and it's not even hyper.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I will say this about
But it
free
is
downloads.
I spent it though because the game is amazing.
I will say this about free downloads. I've never downloaded a game for free that I enjoyed and liked that I didn't go out and purchase the hard copy.
Right. If I like it, I buy it.
Yeah,
Right. Well, that's just
because I want it on my shelf.
And if someone, exactly, but if someone's going to download it and they're not going to buy it because they don't have the money or something like that, they could still be a mouthpiece for your company if they can't afford it. We are in a bloated market right now where there's so many games to play.
So many.
You know,
You know what? Screw that. My first adventure that I did for Potted Adventures, tomorrow I'm going to put it out for free just to prove a point.
okay.
You heard it here first.
People. But no, what you're saying.
Hold on,
is
I'm gonna
so
expand
true.
that. Tomorrow he's gonna put out for free, and next week he's gonna run it on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. For 5 of you lucky members.
I'll do that if you, I can't next
Like
week.
this video.
I'm at MegaCon, but the week after I will absolutely do that if you want to set it up.
Yeah,
Please like
Okay,
this
we-
video.
we can definitely get that set up.
It's
Yeah.
totally-
That's what I set it up, and
likes.
I'll do it.
You already have 3 players here. We definitely would want other people. But either way,
I'm going to put a note here right now. After show, talk about running adventure, Crimson Chain EP1 after Mega.
boom,
That's
it's locked
I'm
in.
standing really far from my computer right now.
It might as well be chiseled in stone. It's set.
I will 100% do it. We'll do it on like a Monday or Tuesday night. I'm down.
Okay.
Again, it is a hard R.
I will definitely, if we don't find a
Record
player.
it if you
but-
want.
Oh no, yeah, no, it would be awesome to get that out on like stream or something. But
Eric played that one game with us. He was like, "Yo, these guys only do buffoonery games."
we can do gritty and
I
hardcore.
knew I was in.
No, Eric knows that we can be a little bit more graphic because we played in his Met game.
Oh yeah, that
We
was.
talked off of Line.
Yeah, that's
I'm just pulling.
All right. Before we get
What else you
even
got?
more off the rails, yeah.
No, there was a whole. That was still
Part of the
significant to the conversation.
either way. Yeah, I lost my train of thought now. But yeah, so we talked about this a little bit before. You talked about what inspires you, or what drives you forward. So like when you find yourself needing to work, or like you kind of yourself putting it off or whatever have you,
Yeah.
what kind of music like gets you going? What kind of like, I don't know, maybe TV show or like genres is specific, kind of like get that like mojo flowing that makes you want to do stuff.
Okay. So it depends on what part of my process I'm in. I'm a big and firm believer in a process when you are freelancing full time. So I hate routine. I am a very chaotic person by nature, but I know that if I don't have a routine, shit doesn't get done. I want to work 4 to 6 hour days on many different projects because I have so much going on. I don't want to work 10 hours on something because I'm just absent-minded and not getting stuff done. So for me, it's getting up and having the same 3 things every morning that I do to get me rolling. And that's usually, obviously, coffee, because it's going to happen. And my mornings aren't always early. I don't wake up every time. I don't believe in that part. But I do get coffee as long as it's before like 1 p.m. I will always have coffee. I usually then look through anything but news in my media stream on Flipboard. Any ideas that I immediately have creatively get written down, and I walk my dog. That is my morning routine. And then I come into my room, and the first half of my day is at a standing desk after injuring my back from sitting and doing too much artwork on Grimmerspace. It was horrible. So I do stand and sit. I kind of rotate. So for music, I like music when I'm in the art process. I don't like music when I'm in the writing process. And it's not that the words detract me from writing. I find that I write in the style of the music I'm listening to, and that becomes a problem. So when you're listening to, I don't know, Killer Mike and Run the Jewels, you're trying to run a horror thing, doesn't go that well. So instead, I usually put on mood pieces for shows that are fitting. So if I'm running horror, I may have Penny Dreadful on repeat, something I know. If I'm running sci-fi, I will have some of the Aliens or Predator movies on if it's that style, the 80s style. If it's more modern, I will have like Killjoys on if I'm running kind of like a fun thing, and I make sure I theme them like that. And I love anime, so I watch anime a lot. But the problem I've been having with anime is as more and more anime comes out, the less and less it's got English dub. And I can't be watching it when I'm doing artwork or writing.
Yes.
So during my artwork process, anything goes. If I'm doing the beginning laydowns and drawing something, I will listen to either what I've been liking the last couple of days. I will put podcasts on during that time frame to get ideas for the writing. Or to get ideas for my podcast because I don't like what there's. I deliberately listen to podcasts I don't like that are confrontational to me because it makes me creative. Confrontation makes me creative. Maybe it's the old school person in me that loves Rage Against the Machine, but that confrontation makes me creative because there's something about you that comes out. And then at the end of the day, when I am setting up my social media to go for the next morning. Again, I don't look at anything political during design process stuff because I'm not a political commentator on that crap. And I look through everything and I get my ideas together for the next day. I have them sitting here actually. Hold on. I have a whole stack of coasters that are grid. And I literally fill out the first day and the second day and every one of them of what my routine is the night before I go to bed.
Oh, wow.
And I have a bunch of these coasters that I ordered out of Europe, and now I can't get them. So now I have to find new coasters. But I like that they were grid because I'll like sketch maps on the backside if I have the idea the day before. And that's my closing ritual for the night. And that's usually while watching TV with the girl if she's still up, because I can just jot things down and pay attention to what we're doing and be there. And that's how I unplug for the evening, getting all the shit out of my head. And then I try to lay down. Usually, though, that's still 4 a.m. So
welcome to my world.
Mm-hmm. But that's my creative process, and that's kind of what I do. So music is all over, anything but country. I don't like country. It's not my jam.
It was funny because I popped into someone on the Discord. He had a Twitch stream going. It wasn't tabletop. He was just playing League of Legends, but he was playing country music. I'm okay on it, depends on the situation or the song piece, but I just find it funny that you mentioned it now.
I blame my Aunt Kathy making drives from Detroit to Florida and country on the entire way.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Definitely want some variety.
I'm talking that old twangy stuff, not this new talk country or hip hop.
I got stationed for a year in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and they had 2 radio stations, country and western. You're laughing. But there's a difference.
There is. One's worse than the other, but they're both bad.
No, I was just laughing because those were the 2 options.
That's it.
Yep, it's true though.
And trust me, there's a difference. And it's like, what in the hell? Where did I? This is the real Twilight Zone.
Yes. Speaking of which, the new series, wish it was better.
It's brilliant.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
God, it's so good.
I listened to This Imaginary Life. Or no, not This Imaginary Life. Sorry, that was my old thing I did. It's called... Wow, this guy is amazing. Why am I blanking?
Twilight Zone is my favorite, TV show of all time.
It's the reason sci-fi is accepted on TV.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele.
Rod Sterling.
Yeah, Jordan Peele is killing it. He really is.
I haven't heard any reviews or anything.
Eric Malinsky on Imaginary Worlds. He just did one on Rod Sterling, which is the original gentleman who did
Rod Sterling.
Yeah, who did Twilight Zone. And what is missing from me is his way of speaking. So the way he spoke at the beginning of the Twilight Zone is just how he talked in everyday life.
What?
Yes, and that he was military, and that part is missing for me. Like the new stuff is awesome. I mean, Peele is really finding his stride right now. I didn't like his last movie as much as his first. He's finding his stride. But Twilight Zone is really good. I just think, though, my Twilight Zone isn't that. It's Black Mirror.
Okay.
I think Black Mirror is my current Twilight Zone.
Well, you know what? I'm loving the Twilight Zone, and I get what you're saying. I think, for me, the only thing for me is that I don't think Jordan Peele captures... Even though he's in the suit and everything, he doesn't capture the emotional.
You can't.
Right. And
you have an impersonator, and then you're just an impersonator. Like he's doing his own thing.
I think what he should have done was you still do the voiceovers, but not be there.
I think
You know
you
what
should
I'm
have
saying?
done Tales from the Crypt instead of Twilight Zone.
That's true.
Yeah, I know. You take that iconic franchise like Twilight Zone that means so much to so many people. I don't. It has to be difficult to.
Has anyone in Cypher Unlimited ran Twilight Zone for the Strange?
Not that I've heard of.
No, but that's a good idea.
Genius.
Mhm.
You know what? That is a good idea. I think you just gave me an idea.
I think that would be an amazing. I would even take old episodes and run them and just never tell anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
I ran the Warriors, the gang flick, and half the people had no clue what I was talking about.
My
This
first
guy.
opening for Detroit Living
But-
City, I ran New Jack City.
But so you know, Eric, I got to play in the Warriors game. I knew it, and I got to say that iconic line when he was like, "You know, the best." Great. You couldn't say it.
I was in that game too, and I did the Cyrus speech, and he had no idea what I read it.
Can you dig it?
It was just a well-run game to me.
He's like, I don't know what the Warriors are.
Like, I know of it, but I've never seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I have. There's so many. We could do a whole like video interview of me. You guys asking me a movie, I'll tell you I haven't seen it.
Did you ever watch Totally Rad Show at all when it was on the air on internet? It was on Revision 3 back in the day.
Don't know what that is.
Alex Albrecht, Jeff Kanata, Danny Trachtenberg. Danny Trachtenberg has done the Cloverfield movie, second one, some stuff. Guy's awesome. He did the really good Hellboy, not the recent one, which I heard a lot of mixed reviews. But they did an episode. They did a segment on Totally Rad Show, which was a review site for video games and stuff, called Dan Becomes a Man. They did things he didn't know how to do, like change a tire, things like that. We need to do that for you for movies.
Yo, I am down for that. Yo, we watch a movie.
You guys watching a movie and just tell people what you're watching. Tell them to watch it with you, and just stream him seeing these movies for the first time.
Eric,
Yo,
I have a Puerto Rican question for you.
For me?
Have you ever watched West Side Story?
No.
How are you? That's the first Puerto Rican ever on film with that.
I'm not a movie watcher.
The first Hispanic woman to ever win an Oscar was West Side Story.
I don't follow cinema. I like
If
cartoons.
you ask about anime, he will tell you.
Even that is very
When I was
limited.
like 6, Rita Moreno was like God. My mother would be like, she won the first Oscar. She put us on the map.
It's true.
So I'll tell you what, Eric, you're coming back. You're going to be part of the interview panel. Al, you're going to be the interviewee, and we're going to go over all the things you haven't watched.
Yo, that would take way.
Let's do this now, and we need to pick a movie and go.
All right, here's a good way. What's
Raiders
another?
of the Lost Ark. That's a great one.
Haven't
Have you
seen.
seen Time Bandits?
Haven't seen it.
No.
So
Have you
many.
seen Ghostbusters?
I have seen that one. Yes.
Star Wars.
I just recently we mentioned this. I saw it 5 years ago for the
Not a
first
fan of
time.
it.
Yeah, the first 3, like the episode 1, episode 2, episode 3.
Predator?
No,
All right, we'll do at least a gaming. Have you seen Conan?
no.
Yeah, all right, we can do Conan because that's at least gaming related almost.
You have got to watch Conan.
All right, well, let me just rattle off a couple of the quick ones I haven't seen, and we can move on with the interview. So I haven't seen Terminator, haven't seen Alien, haven't seen
Indiana Jones?
Indiana Jones. Well, I think I saw the first one,
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I said that first.
and I haven't seen Space Odyssey 2001. Like so many.
Right click on friend.
But anyway,
Anything by Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds, Psycho, anything.
I don't think so.
Memento? Let's go modern. Have you seen Memento?
Nope.
Did you ever see like any Mel Brooks movies like High Anxiety, Blazing Saddles?
I saw Blazing Saddles, but I don't remember it much. And I also saw.
You see Spaceballs?
I have seen Spaceballs, yeah. But anyways,
Back of your hand? Have you seen the back of your hand?
doesn't look familiar. Doesn't look.
So Eric,
Bring us back and start asking questions.
yeah, we just got to do this. You know what, Eric? I mean,
He's going to cut this whole section out. He's going to be like,
No, we're leaving it. It's gonna stay in.
just mark it. Skip this if you don't want to hear banter.
So basically, we're going to ask you. I would get to ask the best and illustrious question: what do we have to look forward from Erik Frankhouse in the future?
okay, yeah, I can talk about one of them. So the two people I mentioned that really got me into the industry, Lou Agresta and Rome Barton, they have Grimmer Space coming out. It is a setting for Starfinder, Paizo Starfinder, that is low magic, high grit and grime. Think all the stuff from Aliens and that kind of feel. Their first adventure that is free, Abattoir 8, is out now on Drive-Thru-RPG. I got to do all the cartography and just kind of help Lou consulting through it along with a bunch of other people. Richard Pett is the original creator for it, for the writer and designer. That's out for free. It's like 45 pages of adventure and then a bunch of tables that keep things in check. Because we learned making Razor Coast that giving GMs sheets that they can just mark off that players have done stuff really helps them in their process of knowing where they are in the adventure if you don't finish it in one sitting, or just so you know going back, like, oh, they didn't figure out how to do X, Y, or Z. These people are screwed at the end. So that kind of stuff. And the cool thing is for Grimmer Space, it is grim, gritty, and just dirt filled, right? They on the front have a scale of what kind of horror it is. In the front of Abattoir 8, it says slaughter. And it is made to be this, if your players make it through it, good for you, you get a ship. If you don't, oh well. I got to do all the maps for it, and they're all done like the old CTVs that you would see back in like the 80s.
Nice.
So every map is that way, and there's a PC and a GM version for each one. And there is a map/handout kit that's also free for Abattoir 8. If you look up the same thing, Drive-Thru, they're free until June, and the Kickstarter launches May 22nd. The coolest part about this Kickstarter is Sean Astin, yes, The Hobbit, Rudy, Sean Astin, is one of the creative producers or directors for this process. And that dude is awesome. Right. And I didn't know he was on the project till I was already in. And Shauna Germain's going to be writing for it. I think Jason Bowman's project. There's a whole bunch of big names kind of from, again, Lou and Roan doing their parties every year, meeting and greeting and putting their feet to the pavement and doing what I said. And what I did, and bringing all these people in to kind of culminate into this one thing. So that comes out the 22nd for the Kickstarter. I'm super pumped for that. And then, what else can I talk about that I know?
Is there estimated release date for that?
That I don't know. The Kickstarter is the 22nd. I would say 12 months. That would be my guess. But they haven't given me my media junket for that stuff yet. I find that stuff out of MegaCon, because Sean Astin's going to be at MegaCon, and hopefully there's something going on there. So I'm trying to think gaming. I'm trying to do gaming specific. Yeah.
You're going to be doing more stuff on Cypher system. I know that. You're going to be doing more on Cypher Unlimited.
I was going to be doing my home campaign of Thontia for Cypher, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be coming out on a different system now. So that is something to look forward to. Although I can say I do have a Cypher system game called Warpaint that I'm doing. And that one, I think all three of you get to play in that, right?
I don't think... Oh, you played it, Anthony?
You played
I didn't play.
No, me and Dean.
Well, everybody else here got to play.
Me and Dean, yeah.
I was actually signed up for that game. I just didn't... I wasn't able to make it.
I don't remember who else played with us. There's one other person,
Me,
right?
Dean, Bioa, and I feel like there was a fourth.
Yeah.
So there's a fourth guy.
Warpaint is what I call for my Patreon. I do my Patreon just to have a place to store all my stuff. And if you want to support my podcast when I do, go to Patreon and join up. And I do a lot. So I do my plotted adventures. Those are the audio guided adventures for GMs. It's literally a plot web, 2 versions of the map, one without stuff on it, one with, and an audio track list that you listen to and you write your own notes on how you want to run it. The first 3 are systemless. The first one will be out free tomorrow because I said I'm doing it. Second one is up there right now for pay. And then Warpaint is going to be my next micro setting after Magic and Monsters and Marks of Men, which is what I'm doing right now. It's a 5e setting. Micro setting to me is something that's under 100 pages. It's here's a setting, the old polyhedron feel, where you go, here you go, here's something to run, have fun, build off of it. If one of them blows up, maybe I'll do more for it. And Warpaint is far future, my love letter to kaiju and
Mecha.
Yeah, mecha and slice of life aspects from non-chibi anime. So for things that are like, your Akira's, your Ghost in the Shells, things along those, like your Cowboy Bebops, that's more of the feel. And the old monster movies I used to watch babysitting my brother growing up.
Nice.
And
Wonderful.
it is kind of ridiculous.
And Warpaint, for all you people out there, if you take anything I say, seriously, Warpaint is some good stuff. It was so much fun. I'm waiting for you to run another adventure.
I think the hardest part of Warpaint is teaching another GM to run it right. So,
I mean, it seems pretty decently straightforward. I mean, I don't know. I read the stuff. It
not
seemed.
the mechanic. It's
Or you like the feel, like the cinematic type feel, like
the cinematic. It's the caring less, doing more aspect of it. The fact that your mechs are supposed to be only like a quarter of your time in the game. It's actually about the pilots, and the mech stuff should be fast and furious. Like, if you guys get that thing's AC down or defense down, you're gonna kill it. That's just what it is. It's more the Power Rangers aspect of that. But the slice of life, you're sponsored by like, in the equivalent it'd be like Red Bull and Nike, and you're sponsored, and you do press junkets afterwards because you're recorded the entire time you're doing your job. And you do the press junkets afterwards, and that's kind of the combination of how the GM hands experience out, and also how you hand out fame and rep to buy things and get things from your sponsors. And that part of it is fun as hell.
Yeah, that was awesome. That really stood out, major league. I
have the guy interviewing you act like Max Headroom, which is one of my favorites.
Nice.
But that was super fun. Like you never think that you're gonna have a super fun time doing like a press interview in a game, but like it was so fun. Like I had to like control my emotions because I was being constantly watched. Like
I'll give you a tip. So what I do is every time a player rolls something that they make an audible sound about, like, oh God, or that was amazing, I write it down. That is what I have them interview you on compared to what your sponsor wants you to be.
Oh, that had to be hard for Al, because Al always laughs in between games.
He was playing more serious character too, so he was getting his chops beaten.
I mean, I think I did okay.
Yeah, sure. You want some fame? He leaned into it and was like talking about the amazing exploits that he did, as in like all the violence he did was absolutely amazing, and he leaned into that aspect of it, and that's the stuff that makes the game fun.
Yes.
It was pretty good.
And it didn't help that we had a rogue agent at the time who didn't come to the press meeting that we had to like not talk about and talk about at the same time.
Now you play hunters, which are mech or pilots, and then you have hounds, which are your mech, and you're a part of lodges like a hunter's lodge, and they're all built in the world in districts, and each one is built on top of old cities or old states, and everything is nanotech. So like, yeah, I know nanotech is magic, blah, blah, blah. But the concept is when buildings get destroyed, the people who have good insurance gets rebuilt first. And the poorer parts of the world, maybe they just don't get rebuilt. And there's fall shelters you go to and all this kind of crazy, over-the-top robot jocks anime stuff. But, yeah, that was the whole thing. I knew he wasn't going to come to the press conference. There's only one way to get him to the press conference, and you guys did not do it.
We definitely did.
Out of the 15 times I've ran that, only one group has got him to the press junket. So. I can tell you it was in manacles.
Oh, forced them, you got.
Well, no, see, but
one of the hounds, and then.
If you remember correctly, Al convinced me not to kill him. So
yes,
because I was just like, forget it. This dude is a problem.
He's a turncoat. Let's get rid of him.
Get rid of it. Gotta go.
You're not your camera. But either way, now that we've come to sort of the end of our easy goal.
I got a surprise for you. Normally we go into our rapid fire questions, but Eric came prepared, and he has questions for us. So
I do.
That's actually what I was going to mention.
Well, aren't you special?
What?
Do you want me to ask him, or do you want to do it?
No, flip the script. Ask the questions.
All right. So I don't do this in all of them, but I love you guys, and I wanted to bring an actual. We all joke around a lot, but I have a couple topics that are a little more serious. So we didn't talk about a lot of Cypher tonight either. That was surprising. I thought this was going to be Cypher centric. So I want to know about, and this can relate actually to the new Cypher system product coming out. what products make both GMs and players buy them? Like there's such a divide between a player product and a GM product. GMs buy all of it, but players only buy things for players. They don't buy GM products unless they are the middle ground, which is a collector.
All right, so I'll answer this first. It seems like a fairly straightforward answer, though. I feel like
it's yours. I don't buy anything.
No, I do buy stuff, but the real what I was gonna say was I feel like if you want to get both people to buy it, the GM and the player, it has to include like options for character creation or something like that, or settings or background stuff for characters, where the players will feel the need to read it to make their character better, or mesh better with their ideas or whatever have you. It can't just be monster information with stuff that the DM needs. It has to have a good mix of both.
Okay, and I'm writing some down because I have a follow up to that after that.
I actually I was 100% right on that. Character options is always something that the GM is going to buy everything. We all know that. Anyone that's a fan of a system, they're going to literally buy everything. They're going to buy the adventures. Yep. But what I think a lot of players enjoy to read are equipment guides and monster manuals. And
you think players enjoy monster manuals?
Yes.
Why is that?
And here's why. A player could utilize a monster manual beyond the actual game that they're playing. When I was a young gamer, I would always buy the monster manual, even when I wasn't a GM, because I liked it was sort of like reading fiction. The bios, especially the early, second edition D&D, you had that little synopsis of what's
like Volo's guide for 5e right now.
Yes.
Right.
So I enjoyed reading a monster manual, not necessarily as a game book, but as enjoyable reading. So if it was a genre that I was into, I would, buy the monster manual, the adversary guide, whatever you want to call it. And equipment lists are always good too, because if you're always coming up with if you need an idea to create a character, equipment lists usually spark that idea. If you were playing something like something like science fiction, you could see a particular vehicle or gun and frame your character around that gun or around that cool vehicle, around that cool ship. So those are the two things that I would think that it may not be the first thing they go to, but a player would purchase those. But you could take that with a grain of salt, because I buy everything. I'm a collector. So,
okay. And I'll say to the same thing, speak to it just like Anthony did. I'm definitely a collector. I'm a game master, so I want everything. But as a player, I tell you, when I come to a game from a player aspect, even as a GM aspect, but one of the things that draw me is lore, and I love it interspersed in the rule book. If the layout is brilliant enough and they give me lore that continues to draw me into the setting, draw me into the genre, that is huge for me. So.
Do you have examples of that for something you've read recently? Is there something in Cypher that feels like those things for you?
Oh man, Cypher system all the way around does it. I mean, Numenera. I'm, Priest of the Aeon came, and that opens up with a nice intro story, and then from the intro story, it goes into some of the meat of what goes on.
But is that a player's book or is that a GM's book?
It's both. It's definitely both, because there's a ton of character options in there for players.
There's a part B to this though, and this comes from my second edition mentality. I liked box sets, and I love Numenera's box set where they divided the player from the GM. I don't want my players to have all the knowledge.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar to, what I think is a cop-out? I really think it's a cop. I hate when 5e did this with, I forgot the name of the book.
Every single adventure?
That they put character options in a GM's book.
They put characters of options in the adventures.
Yeah, which, in my opinion, that's a cop-out. That's sort of like you forcing the player to buy a book that they could only utilize 12 pages on.
You got to think about it. That's not a cop-out. That's greed.
Yeah. So what it comes from is the 1 to 5 ratio. GMs are 1, players are 5 on average. And out of that 5, you'll have one player who also buys everything because they're a collector. Maybe you have the exception to the rule. We're not talking edge cases, we're talking the middle ground. And I've ran into this problem. Like, I make adventures, but like my podcast is, while it's 4 GMs, it's 4 players as well. I kind of try to hit both notes. And I find that the products that I read, the main 3 books that come out, or main 4, usually your character options, your main book, your GM's guide, and the monster manual, only 2 of those are for players, and then the rest are for GMs, but they have to buy them all anyway.
Right.
I want a solution to where the GM isn't buying everything anymore. Because I run the games, shouldn't my players be buying it?
I mean, that is definitely an excellent question, and I wish I had an answer to it.
I have a question for everybody, because this kind of sparked my imagination here. What's the first thing when you buy a complete all-in-one game book, like, setting, Paizo's first Pathfinder, everything was in one.
Numenera comes out, we buy Numenera.
All right, what's the first section you open before you read anything?
Character creation.
Character section.
Index. If it's not there, I don't run it.
You see, I first thing I read are the monsters. I don't know why. That's just, I've always done that. Like, I might not read them, thoroughly, but I flip through what.
I take this back. I take it back. The first thing I do is flip through the book and look at the art. Period.
Oh yeah.
Yes, God, that's a first for like almost everyone.
I have a really hard time diving.
But see, you know what, Eric, you're not alone. I was telling somebody this. Like, I'm a huge comic book person.
Me too.
Huge comic book aficionado. I have 55,000 books in print. The Silver Surfer is one of my, if not my favorite character that I haven't created myself. And I have not read a Silver Surfer comic book in years because I hate Paul Rudd's art. I can't, especially for the Silver Surfer. I can't get past his art. So I'm missing out on something I enjoy. So I'm definitely with you there. If the art doesn't speak to me.
Yep. I think environmental art over character art for me is a GM and player, because it sets the tone. And if it doesn't have environmental art, I find myself trying to learn what the world looks like. And that's the first thing that drew me to Numenera. Is I opened it up and it's like a 5-to-1 ratio of environmental art to character art, which made me ecstatic. I don't care what an item looks like. I can figure that out. And all I want to know is how they dress and what the place they're in looks like, so I can then take that and tell a story. So that's my first question. My second question here is to the GMs, and we all GM, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So as a GM, what helps you organize? Let's, for example, if you are a GM that uses binders, if you're a GM that is strictly online, what helps you organize your ideas, your thoughts, and your adventures that you run? What's your process?
I'll take that one. I'll take that one first. Oddly enough, my process, you were talking about it earlier, and it's kind of vice versa than most people. I love music. Music organizes my thoughts, and 99% of the time, especially when it's getting ready to GM or something like that, I listen to.
I do agree with that.
Lots of instrumental music, and I listen to things that most people probably aren't familiar with, fusion jazz and stuff like that.
Not country. I listen to everything but country.
Well, okay, so Jean Lupani, El Dimiola,
anything that's wordless.
Return to Forever. That music puts me in another headspace.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I do. The next thing I do is I love pens. I am a pen and stationery type of person.
Dude, me too.
So I have 9 times out of 10, I buy a new notebook and I get a new pen or pencil, and I just start making my notes. Exactly.
Yeah, I was looking for a nearby notebook so I could pick it up. I don't know where my new one is.
I know your guys are. I'm neither none of that. I'm writing with a crayon on the back of it.
You also record in your kids' room sometimes. So
I write on a crayon on the back of a newspaper.
Well, I have stuff with me if I need to put a note down, but if I'm really going to sit down and develop something out, it has its own notebook.
Yep.
It has its own pen, And that's just kind of my process. Now, the other side of the coin is I'm not one of those people who I stopped writing out adventures in their entirety 25 years ago.
Why?
Because players are going to go off the rails. Why should I write this in-depth thing and I'm going to go off the rails? I mean, because I'm responding to what my players are doing. I want the experience. I want the story. The story is the most important thing. I was being a narrative GM before I knew I was a narrative GM.
Yeah, same.
The rules didn't matter. I house rule things because
rules are for players, not for GMs.
Exactly. And, because I embraced that whole concept, like I said, I started playing way back in 77. And, to move forward and to move through the number of different genres and games I played, I realized that systems really don't matter, and it was all about the story. It's all about that creative process. So, some guy has it out now where he calls it the 7-5-2-1 or something process. I've been using it for years. It's my own process. I build very specific conceptualizations for the big bad. I will have 5 or 6, key places that I can drop anywhere in the world. I'll have a bunch of NPCs, outlined, so that guy fits if I need to pull him in or out. But as far as writing out the entire adventure, I know where I want it to go, but my players fill in the blanks because I give my player agencies too, and that's, I think, moving forward with everything. That's what I've learned. I've learned how to get player agency and actually use the player characters too. Write me a background story. Give me some information.
How many times a GM says that and never uses the player background?
No, that's not me. I'd love to put that stuff in here.
I make that mistake all the time.
But it's funny, like if you use a player's background, what ends up happening is their skin is already in the game. They wrote the background. If you're willing to take that agency almost immediately happens. And it's a great way to get shy players to shine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I do it.
Also, too, if you have character players that know how to riff and improv, it works better with. Yeah, it works better with the shy player, but with a experienced player that that once I start talking, and you're gonna pick up my cues, we could run that way. It depends on the player actually, but I do think that backgrounds are important. But also, if you're a minimalist when you prep.
Yep.
It's very helpful to have that in the backgrounds in your back pocket.
Anybody else have anything special to do for organizing for prep?
You could go out.
Yeah, mine is super short.
I have my own process as well.
No, but for me, as far as you guys know, or as much as you guys know, I'm pretty much just a one-shot GM. I don't do campaigns or anything, so I don't really have.
Is there a reason?
Oh, I just personally don't like the commitment of having to do something once a day every. I know that's kind of weird because we're on the schedule for interviews and shit, but just the I don't know. Either way. So for one,
you guys should clip that and have it to send it to him every time he says something.
But for one shots, there's not as much to organize, so it's pretty easy to keep everything in one spot or in a very easy spot. So I do something with I always keep pen and paper notes. I have a bunch of notebooks. You guys know I love that stuff. I forget what the journaling method is called.
Bullet journaling?
Well, say that again?
Bullet journaling?
Yes, bullet journaling. I essentially do that, just very dumbed down. I essentially have the first page is an index, and then I number each page. And then, when I write a note on a certain page, I go to the index in the beginning. I write, hey, I wrote this there, number the page, and it's very easy to find what you were working on. And that's essentially all I do for organization. There's really not much else to it. As far as making games goes, I'm like Anthony. I just you guys in general. I come up with a couple scenes, maybe themes I want to hit on. Nothing ever anything in depth because, like Dean said, people always go off the rails. So it's better to improv those sort of things than to have set stuff in stone. So yeah, that's basically it. Very little notes.
Do you write in reverse? Do you run your adventure, do minimum prep, and then go back and rewrite them at all?
Not me.
I do the second time.
I go back. What I end up doing, because I put stuff down, I'll put down things that are done, just so and if I felt like I fudged something or didn't give the best experience, I'll go back in and put some more notes in where that way I know next time I run it, if I run this particular thing again, I can modify or tweak.
Most of my hum games become published adventures for me, and I run them really free. Like, so the next plotted adventure I have is literally this style with plot webs, and then audio notes where they go, and that is the entire 4-hour adventure in 3 pages, and it's just me doodling.
My process is similar to yours, maybe one less page. I run an entire game on 1 page back and forth.
Yeah, that's what my home games are. That's me getting ready to publish.
Yeah. What I do is I write out an intro to the game, like how I know I want to start, especially if I have the characters beforehand, how I know the characters are going to meet up, figure out a way to get them together. And then I write an ending. Regardless if they get to that ending or not,
so you're a bookend GM.
Yes. I write the beginning, I write the end, and then I write 6 scenes. But what I mean about scenes is I write what, where, who, what, when, and where, and that's it. So, I'll write kitchen, gremlins with bloody knives, missing chef, funny NPC that has a lisp. That's it. And I'll know that that's a scene, and I'll have those. I won't necessarily use those 6 scenes.
But they're prepped for you.
Yeah, I'll have those 6 scenes, and then in case of Cypher, I'll have 10 ciphers somewhere. If I'm using Cypher system, or if I'm using D&D, I'll have 10 artifacts or whatever it is prepped. But other than that, I do nothing else. But you said something interesting that I do. After the session, if I know I'm gonna rerun it.
So like the Star Wars one, you ran this more than once now, right?
Yes. And it's funny because the only repeat scenes on there were the compactor scene and the haircut scene. The haircut scene is a scene that I knew worked. It worked the first time I did it. So the second time I ran it, I wrote notes. Hey, this works. This is funny because I was going for a funny game. Add the picture of Brad Pitt. It made sense. You know what I mean? It made sense for the story. But that's what I do more writing after the session than I do before the session.
Yeah, I agree. I reverse engineer most things in my life.
Yeah.
So you may wonder why I brought 2 questions because I'm getting interviewed. I brought it for this. We are all Cypher System fans overall, right?
Yeah.
Have the new book coming out, and the biggest controversy that I've had is we bought, I think most of us here, correct me if I'm wrong, bought into your best game ever because we want the new Cypher System book.
Yes.
Right.
I will say that, yes.
Do you think your best game ever is going to have any of the kind of info we just fucking talked about?
I feel like it should. I don't know what's personally.
In my opinion, I could be wrong, but from what I read, I think it deals with more the emotional aspects of individuals,
like people getting upset at tables and stuff like
personalities. Necessarily,
I need 100 pages for that.
Yeah, but that's what I think it is. Because you got to understand that it's also 50 essays by game designers.
I'm excited to hear some of the essays, just because
that's going to eat up half the book.
I like how they write. I like some of the stuff they have to say. So I asked this because Satine Phoenix and Matt Mercer both did the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Knew how to GM and what to do. Those are genius. Not Roll20. Critical Role now has their handbook or helper stuff. Yeah. Those are really great for new players. Like, they're not for me, but they are for people. And I want this book to be something that if I am running a game and I know where I'm at in my gaming level, like I know where I'm at, I compete. I'm a competitive gamer, and I'm competitive in storytelling. But when I talk to somebody who's running at home and they want their game to be better, I want to make sure when I hand them that book, it is what makes them better, or at least something out of it does. And when I did the Kickstarter, I backed it. I supported it. I did both. So it's not like I'm saying I didn't back it. I don't actually know what I'm getting into.
I could definitely agree with that.
Well, Anthony will tell you, when they first announced your best game ever, I was on the fence. I was warbling.
I just want the Cypher book.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I wanted the Cypher rule book, and then they started talking about, the new genre books,
Some of those are cool.
Yeah, those caught my eye. But your best game ever, I was saying to him, it's probably going to sit on my, coffee table, and I'll probably not open it because I don't think I need advice books anymore.
I just don't know what type of advice book it is. So
right.
So it's not the same as I do read a lot of advice books when I am in a rut because
what I did was did you ever see the what is the one I did not too long ago was How to Write Adventures That Don't Suck.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I got and I also got the Dungeon Master's Almanac.
Yep.
Those two, that Kickstarter was great. It was real low key. And the books came, and again, like Anthony said, it was a bunch of essays.
I like the Sly Flourish stuff as well.
Sly Flourish is fantastic. So, for example, have you guys ever seen Writing with Style, advice from an editor to an RPG writer?
Oh, no.
That is an amazing book. It is only 44 pages. You don't feel like you're getting drowned. And it's about how when you write and hand it to an editor, how that relationship works. There is a lot of the idea of the process and behind the scenes that is missing on professional, but I think also as a GM. So Matt Colville talks about like fudging roles and things.
Yeah.
And you should, he just talked about this. You should not tell your players when you fudge a roll. It will bite you in the butt. They don't need to know that. You take player agency away. But our job is to direct and produce. And I feel like I love all the MCG products because they do such a good job of sparking imagination, leading you in a direction you need to go. But I don't understand why they left with this your best game ever. And I don't know what it's supposed to do and why they tack the rules in to a conjoined Kickstarter. Now, with that said, they're making a 5e book now.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have had talks about it.
You know what's funny is that we've had this, our next video, our next editorial video is about the Kickstarters that Monty Cook Games are doing.
It's not just MCG that is jumping onto the 5e. The 5e, I don't want to say bandwagon, it's not a bandwagon. They realize that is the monster, just like when D20 was big. The whole E20 craze, where you hook onto that train as it's going and you hobo your way to victory. And they are doing that to bring people back to their audience. But my thing is they have such a fantastic setting and game. And I know they want to promote it to the 5e audience, but I'm not going to run that. I'm going to run Numenera. If you are interested in this, my answer to you is, trust me, I can teach you the system in 15 minutes. Just ignore the edge and effort. We'll start with ease, and we'll be fine.
I'm going to say something that might offend a lot of game designers, but I don't care about settings. I said it. And here's why. And it's not that I don't appreciate settings, but I got into Monty Cook Games for the rule set.
Okay.
I could, I could take Numenera and run it in 5e, or I could take Forgotten Realms and run it in Cypher system, run it in GURPS, run it whatever. Because at the end of the day, that's just a shell, and the rule set is the parts inside the car. So, what if Numenera on 5e is irrelevant to me because I'm gonna run it in Cypher system because that's the rule set I'm the most comfortable with.
You're lucky. You're in a community of 2,000, right? Yeah. You guys run a 2,000 plus group. Most people don't know about that. Like, you guys are still getting the word out about who you are. There obviously are more than 2,000 people if you add up the Kickstarters of people that have backed MCG's products. There's, at least 6,000, 10,000 people if you look at the success rate of what they've done. Some of those are rebackers. But 5e is a monster. Yeah, they are now absolutely. The giant. What's that?
I said absolutely. They're the shark in the pond.
Do you think that the 5e logo is just hopefully they can draw more people over to
I personally, me and Dean had this discussion a couple of days ago. I personally think it's going to have the reverse effect. I personally think that you're gonna get Numenera people, Cypher system people dipping their toe into that pool, and then that pool has 200,000 people playing, and they're gonna pull some of those fan base of what little fan base we have away. That's my fear.
I can say this. I do have some inklings with what you're saying, but not 100%. I think the biggest problem that, for me, as a GM or a player looking for people to play, that I have with not just MCG, but my other favorite, Shadows, Blades in the Dark, and so on, is finding communities. You guys built a 2,000-person community, which is awesome. Like, I can show up and sometime in 7 days find a game.
Yes.
They're one-shots. If I want a campaign, it's a little harder. Maybe it takes me a month to find a campaign through Cypher.
But you can. We have over 15 running right now.
The thing that is missing between that 5e has and Paizo has is there is no organized play online. There's no organized play, and I was hoping with your best game ever and Cypher, they kind of hinted at it, but no one's seen anything. And to me, when I go to, we were at Gen Con this year. You walk by an Adventure League booth or Adventure League hall or a Paizo hall, it makes you go, damn.
But you know what the problem?
Why am I not doing that?
You know what the problem is when you even at Gen Con, we work the booth. When someone comes, this is cool. It's like 5e, or it's like You're
always going to compare. That's called, that happens in everything.
Like the Fates in the world, the Monty Cook games in the world, the Evil Hats in the world. They don't have the fan base, and that's just
here's the thing though. Let me point something out to you guys, and I think it's something that a lot of people miss. And it was something that we talked to Darcy about, and it's something that I want them to do, and I've been trying to push it. Remember, they do have an organized play. They have
stores only, though.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
It's at stores only.
And that's the problem.
I know.
No. And I mean, hear me out.
That might change, though.
No, but hear me out. Understand what I'm saying.
It should be convention organized play.
The Cypher play is brilliant. It's a brilliant model. I've done it. I run it. I've dealt with it. And the reason why it works is because it doesn't do like Adventure League or anything else. It doesn't shoehorn you into having to buy a book and having to do this and that. All of that Cypher play stuff can be dropped right in the middle of your adventure.
That doesn't build a bigger audience, though.
Yeah, I understand what Eric is trying to talk about. It's not necessarily the craftsmanship and the artistic value.
Okay. That is never my question for you.
It has nothing to do. He's talking about how do Monty Cook games
grow your audience.
That's what I'm trying to say. But what I was getting to is because they're only giving it to the stores. And when you go to a store, I hate to say it, but every store I go to is D&D centric.
I'm not going to play in a store, man. I did that growing up.
No, I don't blame the stores. I just blame, like you said, the 300-pound gorilla in the room.
Yeah, but okay, so I was on the original team with Ryan Chaddock and two other gentlemen for MCG writing organized play, and they decided to take it store side. And I was like, guys, is this just your test run for a year? Then you're going to expand? Because I get that. Like, hey, let's see how it works. Let's tiptoe and then do it organized play conventions. The reason I want organized play is this. There's twofold for me, and it's really simple. One, it gives a chance for GMs to go play and have a character that grows. We as GMs don't get to do that. And we are the workhorses that are running stuff for players. And sometimes we want to play, and conventions is usually my time to play 1 to 2 games. 2, it builds an in-person community of people you never see that when you go home, you can play online. It's cyclical. It's a cycle. Yeah. I don't think taking 5e and pulling it into your cycle to gain community is going to strengthen your community. I think that it's a great idea to build 5e stuff, but I would have built something else that's 5e. I don't think I would have ported Numenera.
I will say this about the online play. I don't think this violates any discussions by saying this, but I know for a fact that Monty Cook Games is looking into extending a more open online Bonnie Cook Games backed,
Community.
Community
Like, I
Cypher play.
asset team member. I can run online and like so.
I mean, but actually having central pulling people in.
Like I said, we've talked to Darcy about it, and
we've talked to multiple people besides, but that's like in the works. I totally 100% agree with what you're saying, though.
Then that should have been attached to the re-release of Cypher on Kickstarter, because again, bringing it full circle, my problem with this Kickstarter was I felt like I was buying a memoir or a love letter and not buying a new rule system. But I had to buy one to get the other. That's like if you bought Kit Kats and half your Kit Kat was mint. Bitch, I don't want mint. I want a fucking Kit Kat.
I definitely feel that.
So the 5e made me feel the same thing because it was back to back, and I think that's what made me go,
I don't want to get too in depth on this because this very topic is what our next video is. But this is a very good. I have certain feelings as well, and I feel like me and Eric have similar views.
As a matter of fact, Eric, let's tie things up, but let's talk about you coming back to be on that editorial.
Sure, I would love to.
But with that said, thank you for the questions, and we have our 9 rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those, Eric?
Oh, we have rapid fire? Yeah, let's do this. Come on, what you got?
All right, you ready? Player or GM?
Wait, what was that?
Player or GM?
GM.
Pull punches or go for TPK?
What system?
Your preferred system. I don't know.
Some it's TPK, Shadows the Demon Lord. Other ones, it's about story, MCG.
All right, online or in person?
Both, because sometimes I want to walk away and just have underwear on.
Announce the difficulty number or keep it secret?
Fuck you, roll your die.
Oh boy. All right, so salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Oh, dude, salty, hands down. Sweet snacks, I don't like because most sweet snacks stain my table.
Good answer.
RP or combat or a good mix?
RP, combat is for resolution and it should be quick, just like real life.
PDFs or physical books?
Because I travel, PDFs. The collector in me is looking at all the collector's edition shit.
All right, so pen and paper notes or digital?
Pen and paper, hands down, without a shadow. A moleskin.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
I can file these bitches away afterwards.
Pre-written adventures or original content?
I don't even know what the first one is. I've never, ever ran a pre-written adventure from beginning to end.
You know what's funny? Every game designer that we've had on this show has always said original content, but yet you're trying to sell us pre-written adventures.
You think ours is better than the person standing to our left?
Good answer, good answer.
My thing is this. I respect what they do. I love it, but I don't have time to read it all. I don't want to read a 60-page adventure. That's why mine's 4 fucking pages.
Yeah. I could definitely go through a 4-page adventure, but my days of reading a D&D full book adventure, those days
my
are gone.
sexy, sweet, sultry voice over 20, 30 audio tracks telling you about the adventure, because that is way better than reading.
That is definitely true.
A 60-page adventure is going to get broken up and thrown all over the place.
But awesome stuff. Thank you for answering our rapid fire questions and our regular questions. This was an awesome chat, and thank you for bringing. Exactly. Thank you for bringing some discussion our way as well. That was a first. Definitely welcome though. So anyone who's going to be on here in the future, feel free to drop a question or two. And that was a great talk. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you everybody who watched. Be sure to like, share, subscribe for our channel videos. For everything Eric mentioned during the video, we'll have links down below. Check the description. Anthony will be sure to get those out for everyone. Any last comments, guys?
First of all, I just want to say, Eric, we freaking love you, dude. You gotta open.
You guys are awesome.
you got an open invitation to come on whenever you want, and we're gonna make it happen, definitely.
I've had a lot of interviews in my time. This one is always talking to you guys is always the most fun that I have. And then on top of that, the fact that you guys are running a 2,000 person community and still doing it is highly impressive. Like, you're what my podcast is about. It's about giving people a place to play and how to be better at what they do.
Yeah.
Oh man, yo, you don't know how
I
much
get told not to post in your LFG thing one more time. It's called an accident. I entered on my phone.
Oh boy, I did not expect that comment. But anyways, yeah, well, we definitely, excuse me. What Anthony was saying, we definitely appreciate that sentiment because that is what we strive for. We definitely try to be welcoming. We try to promote good gaming habits. You know, all that good stuff that comes with fostering an amazing community, which Cypher Unlimited is. And if whoever's watching, if you're a part of it, even if you're not a part of it, you're awesome.
You're welcome to become a part of it.
Yes.
And more than anything else, we can't do this stuff without you guys.
Correct.
So Eric Frankhouse, thanks for being a part of our community.
For sure.
And everybody out there. I mean, I don't know if you guys understand it, but this is like, for us, it's like a dream, and it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I already set the like, share, and subscribe, but can you please hit the notification bell on our videos as well, because it actually notifies you of when our new videos come up, and the more views we get, the easier it is for us to get great guests like Eric on, because right now we're a small channel. We do have 2,000 members, but we want to get as many game content creators as we possibly can, and it's a lot easier when we say, hey, we have a certain amount of views per episode.
And honestly, sometimes the bell gets clicked off because YouTube is a bag of dicks.
Oh, yeah. But just to piggyback a little what Anthony said, it's awesome that we have this following or whatever have you, but it kind of sucks to say this, but without those high numbers, like we could be the most awesome interviewers in the world, not according to Erik Frankhouse, but but yeah, we need those numbers. It's just numbers. We are definitely still learning. But with that being said,
super warming. Like, that's the best part. It feels like I'm sitting at home with friends drinking a beer.
Good.
And that's kind of what we aim for.
That's what we want.
And with that being said, thank you again, everyone, for watching. Thank you again, Eric, for being on. It was awesome. And from us at the CU, we will see you later.
Miss you, G+.